Welcome back to another episode of the Thanks for Rolling podcast. Jeff and I are here inside the studio at 10th Planet Springfield with our very first guest.
A special attendee. Welcome.
Thank you. A little nervous.
Come on, you can't be more nervous. He's choked you out. I've tried to choke you out.
Well, you've choked me out a few times. Definitely seen a few stars.
Yeah, if you think you're nervous, you're the guinea pig, so we'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
Should be interesting.
So who are you?
I am Ryan Santiago.
Welcome, Ryan Santiago. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for the invite.
So I'll dive right into this here. A question I like to ask people, especially with this podcast, is what led you to be at this table here with us? How did we all end up in the same place together?
Oh, geez.
And go back as far as you want.
I guess the original story would start, I'd say 2008, my first jiu-jitsu class. I think it was 2008, and I just got kind of conned into it. I didn't really know what it was. Obviously, everybody was watching UFC, and I didn't really know what jiu-jitsu was. And a buddy of mine brought me to a class, and I was intrigued right away. And typical story, I trained for a couple of years, quit for close to a decade, and came back. And I started here about a year and a half ago. And this is the first time I've trained almost straight through outside of COVID. And didn't take any breaks, but yeah, this is I think my final home for jiu-jitsu.
I think your origin story is a very common one.
Yeah.
I know, especially here at our gym, we have a lot of that story. There's the one friend that started on their own and kept dragging the rest of their friends into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like most don't stick with it though.
Yeah. I mean, I started kind of later. I think I was 27-ish, 28. And my buddy was actually 32. So we were kind of in a different age group than what most other people are when they start. So, by then you have a career, you have other things going on. So it's hard to dedicate everything to it. But now it's kind of the opposite, where I'm settled into my career. I don't care about getting promoted and that kind of stuff. So I'm more focused on extracurricular activities.
Nice.
And this has been one of them.
Did you, so you started in the gi?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And how long were you at that gym for?
Close to 2 years. I think I was just shy of 2 years. Yeah.
You got to blue belt.
Got to blue belt.
And then bailed.
Yeah.
Classic move.
A typical story. I almost hate saying, I get cringy just saying it because it's such
You're
a
the meme.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. There was a lot of reasons why I left. I won't get into those, but it's just a typical story, and didn't even think about jiu-jitsu for probably 8 years or so, and came back for a little bit here and there, then couldn't really find a gym that I really liked, and the one I started going to shut down, and then I found you guys up in Springfield.
I tell people all the time, it's not the leaving that matters as much, as long as you eventually find your way back,
Right.
regardless of how long it takes.
Yeah.
People take short breaks or decade-long breaks, but as long as you eventually find your way back, that's really all that matters.
Yeah, the most challenging part, and you guys can attest to this, is just the age. It's just harder to come 4 or 5 days a week, like some of the 22, 23-year-olds, or even 30-year-olds. It's like, after 2-3 days in a row, your body's just beat up.
I was feeling it this week. My upper back and neck have been a little jacked up.
Yep.
I rolled last night, but previous nights this week I didn't train at all.
Yeah. I'm feeling it. Like I said, as the elder statesman in the room, being under somebody's mount during drills last night, who's a fairly large fellow. I'm feeling it today. I was crushed.
I can imagine.
So, but we were just talking about that last week, right? Or when Pat and I did our first, interviews of each other, about how, when you're a youngster, you just come, hey, I'm coming to 2 classes a day, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
I can't pull that off anymore. I've got too much other stuff going on.
Right.
I wish.
Yeah, even if you have nothing going on, your body can't keep up with that. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, some guys, hurt their knee like I did last week, and I didn't get injured. It's just a little hurt. But some guys are like, yeah, I don't care. I'll keep training, and they can work through that. I'm not one of them.
Yeah, it's definitely important to listen to your body. It's that having that long-term vision of what you're trying to do here, right? You just want to train
Yep.
for the rest of your life, ideally. So,
Yeah.
I mean, these little bumps in the road are nothing.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I have to keep telling myself is just that, like, I don't want to be out for 6, 7, 8
Yeah,
months.
you train through it
Right.
and seriously injure yourself. Then you're having surgery and long recovery and
Right.
all of that stuff
Mhm.
versus give it a couple of weeks and
Yep.
see if it's better and then ease your way back into it.
Yeah.
Get to the point where you can maybe work around it and train certain things rather than being in a brace and crutches and all that stuff.
Yeah. And by the time you get through recovery and or your PT, sometimes you're just discouraged. You're like, I can't do this. I can't be 41, 42.
And you've paid a fortune.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And you're broke.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yep.
When you before you started at the gym, you said you guys were like friends were watching UFC. Like, was that like your main motivation? Did you do any other martial arts or anything before?
I mean, I did the typical karate when I was 12 kind of thing. I wrestled a little bit in high school, but I'm apprehensive to even say I wrestled because it was like a year and a half, and most of it was just in the practice room. I didn't really compete that much. Again, injuries and whatnot. But I think honestly, at the time, I wasn't really big into sports, so I think the fear of competing kind of settled in too. It wasn't until I got older, like my mid to late 20s, where I'm like, all right, it's not that big of a deal. It's okay to lose or it's okay to get your ass kicked. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. When you were at that other gym, how much of your motivation to go back was that promotion to blue?
That's a good question. Honestly, I don't think that was much of the motivation. I think more of it was control, like the way jujitsu control, like humiliated me. I think I needed that again. I think through my 20s, I was a pretty arrogant kid. I mean, 20s, you're not a kid, but I was definitely cocky. And that's what I miss is how getting strangled, by people you really like, it just humbles you. And people that you would never expect to strangle you is so humbling. And I desperately needed that. I think that was my primary motivation and I'll be perfectly honest. I think having girls I was dating at the time flat out tell me, hey, you're a little arrogant. And I was like, all right, I got to go back. I got to do something to humble me. And jiu-jitsu was it. I mean, there's nothing more humbling in my opinion than jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, we had a similar conversation last time talking about how it sounds crazy, but how helpful it is to experience basically the simulated death that we're experiencing when you have to tap out to somebody.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you've been in a fight how many times a week when you come here, right?
Yeah. It normalizes losing. And it's a typical story. It strips you of your ego. I mean, nothing that, and I miss the feeling of going into a room and thinking about one thing for an hour and a half, 2 hours. It just gets rid of everything out of your head. You can't think of anything else because you'll get hurt, you'll hurt someone, or you'll just get smashed. Those two things are my biggest motivation for jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
That was some of my motivation for wanting to get this whole podcast thing going on. Just a reason to sit down and talk to people.
Yeah. Yeah.
After I'd done a couple of recent podcasts and interviews, I'm like, it's pretty cool to just put your phone away and sit down and talk to people.
Yeah, definitely. Not get distracted. I mean, I don't realize how often I'm on my phone until my wife just nudges me like, "Hey, we're watching a show. You haven't seen it. You haven't watched it in 20 minutes. What's going on?" And I'm just doing nothing.
Yeah.
So
It is
you
true.
can like turn on that function on your iPhone that like tells you how much of an addict you're being. I'm like, I don't need that negativity.
yeah, I don't want to see that.
I want to be ignorant in my use of my phone.
Exactly.
I do have it, and it does show up for me every once a week. Like, your usage pattern went up 5% or 25% or went up 70%. I'm like, how's that possible? How did I use my phone 70% more than I did the week before? It is like directly correlates to whatever else I have going on, right? If I'm home a lot, the usage pattern goes up like crazy, right? It's amazing.
Yep.
But yeah, I do like the idea, and I've said this to everybody I've ever talked to about jiu-jitsu, is I go upstairs and we start, and from the time I walk in the door until the time I leave, the only thing I'm thinking about is what we're trying to accomplish.
Exactly.
Right. So how many other places in life does that happen? But this is a good example of that, right? It's a good outlet where nobody's on their phone for however long
Yep.
we're in here for, doing our thing, just shooting the shit. So
Yeah, I think a lot of people tell you whatever their activity is that they're into, they'll tell you the same thing. Like whether I think you hear rock climbing people tell you the same thing. You know, they're 40 feet up off the ground. They're not messing with their phone. They're not thinking about other stuff. So I think there's a lot of those outlets in life, but I think the ones that have the greater consequences do a better job at it, like jujitsu or like rock climbing. You're not focusing, you're going to fall. And in jujitsu, you're going to get armbarred or get choked out.
Yep.
yeah, I'm not a runner, so I've never run, but I wonder when I'm alone with my thoughts running, like I could be thinking about anything. We talked about riding bikes, right? Like cycling, and even that, I don't remember getting to that same totally mindful place that I did when I was cycling. Cycling, I never got there like I do here. I don't think, or it never was occurred to me that was something that I reached.
Yeah, for me, like cycling and running is easy enough that my mind is still just going at normal speed. It's still thinking about all of those other things, whereas jujitsu requires that full focus.
Yeah, the two things that I found that are even remotely close are when I had my motorcycle. And then with that, you get comfortable enough where you kind of start taking stupid risks. So your mind starts wandering, that and hiking for me. But even that, it's not even close to jujitsu. It's nowhere near as singular.
Yeah, on the motorcycles, I've never been a fan of like the Bluetooth built-in helmet stuff and talking on the phone and listening to music. I just want to be in tune with the bike and the surroundings and focusing on that stuff and enjoying the solitude.
It's funny. Some people, I found that people I ride with or rode with are at one end of the spectrum with music. For me, music was calming, and I found myself daydreaming when I didn't have music and not paying as much attention.
Interesting.
Yeah, but my cousin was the opposite. He could not have music on
Yeah.
because he wouldn't pay attention. For me, music just focused me when I was on the bike.
I don't even like riding with people. I just want to be alone and in the zone.
Yeah, it got old. Yeah, we were riding with between 5 and 10 people at a time, which isn't a lot for some groups, but it got old. Especially we were all in crotch rockets up until the last year. Yeah, a lot of stupid stuff was happening, to say the least.
Was that you riding on one wheel through the X in Springfield?
Nope. I purposely never learned any of that stuff because I knew it would escalate to, oh, let's try this, let's try that.
I never have either.
Yeah.
Never done a wheelie on a bike.
I have on accident. That was scary, but I never wanted to learn any of that.
Yeah.
Because I would push it to the next level, and I didn't need that in my life.
Yep. So we usually have a bunch of interview questions.
Okay.
So you have a couple good ones that you asked me. We'll feed them to them.
Yeah, I'll serve you up some softballs.
All right.
And of course, get into as much or as little detail as you want to. Just trying to get to, I know all you guys from the gym, but we don't often talk about much outside of jujitsu and, with you bikes, because we know that you're into bikes.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess I'm not going to ask you what your other hobbies are because we know it was bikes. But what's your profession?
So I am a merchandiser slash sales rep for a natural foods distributor. So basically I travel from store to store and set up displays. I sell product, visit with customers.
So you're on the road a lot, right?
Yeah, not obviously
right.
the last year or so, but yeah, for the most part, my territory is southern New England. So I travel throughout Connecticut, Mass, Rhode Island, and upstate New York.
Yikes.
Yeah,
That's some mileage.
It's some mileage, but what I love about it is I never know what I'm going to see on the road. For me, the worst kind of job is sitting in front of a computer all day. It's something I've never been good at, and I've had to do that in the past year, and I've been anxiously waiting to get on the road. And so the past month and a half, 2 months, I've been back on the road. So
Nice.
Yeah, I was actually in Litchfield County today setting up displays, but that's my world, produce. I've been doing produce since I was 15, 16. And
Oh, really?
yeah. So I started at the local local grocery store as a typical store cashier, whatever, moved into produce. And when I graduated high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I still don't really know what I want to do. But yeah, I just stayed in the produce world, and it got me to traveling southern New England.
Nice. So, what's the story with bananas? Bananas get sprayed with something, right, to make them ripen up?
Is that true?
gassed. They're put in gassing rooms. Yeah, if you get a banana that's not gassed, it's basically like a plantain. It's just as green. Sorry, just as green and pretty much inedible.
Yeah, I only know this because when we lived in Phoenix, we were getting like this produce share, and we would always get these bananas. They would be completely green, and they would never ripen up. Like we'd just leave them sitting there on the counter like normal, and they would just eventually go from green to rotten.
Yeah.
There was never an edible phase, and so like we did some asking around and searching, and so I found out about bananas getting gassed
Yep.
and some other produce too, right?
Yeah, mangoes, sometimes tomatoes, I believe, a lot of tropical fruit. But yeah, if you get an ungassed banana,
I
just
never
throw
knew
it.
this.
Yep, fun
Yeah.
facts.
So don't you see monkeys eating bananas? They're not green. Usually, are they? Or maybe they are green.
I don't know if I've ever seen an actual monkey in the wild eating a banana.
Yeah, I usually see
Yeah,
it
get
at
out
a
more,
zoo.
Pat.
Yeah, they're usually being fed a ripened banana or a gassed banana.
Huh. I had no idea that this was a thing.
Our warehouse has these gassing rooms that are 4 stories high and just stacked pallets, and we have 4 of them.
What else can you tell us about produce that we may not know? Any other gems?
Most commonly eaten produce in the world is mango, not a banana. Most people think it's bananas.
Mango, huh?
Yeah, throughout the world.
No kidding.
That's interesting.
I don't even like mango.
No,
I don't think like it's always too hard. Maybe it hasn't been gassed properly.
could be.
Huh. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's a weird thing to talk about because, like, I mean, it's not something you're really, or me personally, I'm really proud of. Like, it's produce. Who gives a like? Who cares? Like, everybody goes in the grocery store, gets produce. But so
Hey, I've tried telling people about the gassing of the bananas, and they look at me like I'm crazy.
that was usually when you talk about gassing rooms and gassing of anything, it has a different kind of connotation or whatever. But yeah, I mean, the rooms are huge, and a lot, like we just had them installed, new ones installed last year. I want to say they were $250,000 for the rooms. And that was more of a repair of the old rooms than a full install. Yeah, it's not a cheap process.
So what kind of gas is it? Methane?
It's like ethylene or something,
I
right?
think it's ethanol. No, ethylene. Yeah, ethylene.
I think ethylene.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure what that is, but
I
Not
should
ethanol. Not,
Yeah, not ethanol. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's ethylene.
Huh.
who
See
knew?
that? If we knew nothing, if I learned nothing else today, I've learned about the gassing of bananas, and I'll be sure to tell people that when
Yeah.
we leave this podcast.
You heard it here first.
Did you know? Right.
Some useless knowledge about bananas and
Yeah.
produce.
Maybe
It's gonna be
we'll,
a fun clip to extract and
Yeah.
share on social media.
yeah.
There you go.
Maybe we'll title this episode
Yeah.
Ryan Santiago and the gassing of bananas. So are you like mega picky when you go to the grocery store and have to buy
It's
produce?
awful. It's so bad. Yeah, my wife won't even buy produce without me sending me pictures or asking me about this or that because she'll bring stuff home and I'm like, oh, why'd you get that?
No
She's like,
kidding.
it looks fine. Oh, yeah, okay.
Huh.
Standards are a little higher.
That's
Yep.
pretty funny.
She won't even shop with me in a produce department because I'll spend an extra half hour in there fixing stuff, and we call it blocking it down, making sure their displays look good in a random Stop and Shop or some random grocery store.
You don't service all like big chain stores, do you?
A lot of natural food stores.
Okay.
Yeah, mostly independents, natural food stores, co-ops, things like that.
Yeah.
So you're really into the quality.
Yeah. Yep.
So do you ever go into a store and be like repulsed?
All the time.
Yeah.
I can't even go to certain stores because I just walk through, I'm just disgusted. Yeah.
Man, put something. I'll have to call you from now on. Like, hey, dude, how's this look?
I
How's this watermelon look?
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you see sloppy jujitsu, it's just like, oh God, like, come on. I mean, especially you know, your level, Pat, it's just like, what are you doing? obviously on a much smaller level of produce, you walk in the department, you're just like, oh my God.
Are
why
you
would
saying
this-
that when you watch Pat Jiu-Jitsu, you're thinking to yourself, what are you
horrible.
doing?
Terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Terrible.
Write that down, Pat. Can use that for later. It'll be a video of you.
Clip that out.
Yeah, a video of you getting slammed over
Right.
and over again
Yeah.
next time.
Leg tripped.
I know that's the karma's going to come back and get me eventually. I know it. Although full transparency, Jameson heel hooked me moments before that video. I just clipped that part out.
Conveniently.
So
Yeah.
I'm not hiding it. I'm just sharing my side of the story.
Right.
There you go.
Right.
He has his moments.
So there's something else that you have going on that we haven't touched on, which Pat and I were talking about
Yeah.
earlier today. Your social media mogul.
Oh, jeez.
How did that come to be?
Are you an
Tell us
influencer?
about that first. Tell us about that first, and then we'll talk about how you got there.
Okay, so I run 4 or 5 pages now. Motorcycle page. Used to have a car page till that got deleted. Tattoo page. Now a jiu-jitsu page. I did have a meme page, but kind of abandoned that. Yeah, I just wanted to start some pages that were based on my interests.
So what was the first one?
First one was a bike page, Life on Two. Yeah, that was the first one. Maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I started. I didn't realize how hard it would be to grow without buying followers. And yeah, and then from there, I went to the car page, and then soon after was a tattoo page. So yeah, it's been interesting.
So what was your strategy for growth on that first one?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure the follow-on ones, you leverage the followers on your existing accounts.
100%.
But
Yeah.
to get that first account,
I think it's just communicating with the people that are commenting on my posts and trying to show that I'm not just some bot or some like big company that has 10 different pages. I'm just a guy. And
just a lot of engagement.
it was too much. It was way too much to the point now where I hardly engage at all now, unless it's people I actually know outside of social media. It's too much to manage.
You're posting pretty, like I can go on Life on 2 and see new content all the time. So you must be spending time like going to look for stuff to post, right? Or JitsTube. Like, oh,
Yeah.
you're those are the only two that I follow, I guess. Only two I actually knew you had. But
Unbelievable.
yeah.
Run through the list.
Yeah,
Give us
tell
your
us, yeah,
accounts.
tell
The bike page is Life on Two. The tattoo page is Inked Mob. The jiu-jitsu page is JitsTube. And those are the 3 that I really focus on right now.
So
I used to have Life on 4 for my car page, but that's gonzo.
what happened to that one?
Apparently I posted copywritten videos, which anything can be copywritten if you report it. So
Instagram just yanked it.
just
I got a Facebook notice today. Some video on the gym page I posted like 3 years ago just got pulled for copyright. And it was just music in the background
Yep.
during class.
Yep, that's what I'm assuming happened to me. I had a few posts deleted for whatever reason. Apparently, the 4th or 5th one was the final straw, and they're like, "You're done." It's like, okay. So I think I was at like 28,000 followers on that one when that got deleted. So that was kind of a bummer, but it's weird being a 40-year-old man having 3 active Instagram pages. It's an odd thing to grapple with. No
The-
pun intended.
And then you don't have one for yourself.
No, I did, and I don't even know what the name of it is. Yeah, that's kind of what I like about these is my personal life is separate from them, and
Yeah,
I can just kind
It's
of
content, but it's
right,
not personal.
exactly,
It's not you.
right. Yeah, I have no desire to throw personal stuff out there on a regular basis. I will on certain occasions just to remind my followers that, hey, I'm just a guy. Like I said, I'm not some big company with a bunch of different pages.
So where do you find all that content? Like do people send you stuff? Like
Some people send me stuff and I just rip it off. I don't steal it, but I'll give credit and everything, but I'll just take it from other pages or I like to, rather than take it from another page, I'll take it from an actual person. I'd rather give another person credit on some content rather than
Yeah.
just another page. So I try to do that as much as possible. Obviously with the tattoo page, it's super easy because I'm just posting other people's artwork.
how many followers do you think are total across those 3 pages?
I think it's like 110-ish, 105 around there. My bike page is the biggest one at I think 81,000, and then the tattoo is over 20, and the jiu-jitsu page I just started. I think there's not even 600 right now.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
would have thought I thought it was larger.
That's a lot of work. I've gone through spurts with our gym account, trying to grow it, and then just not putting any effort into it at all. And just it seems like nothing I've done makes a significant difference other than just posting regular content. Every now and then you'll get like the one thing that blows up a little bit and you'll
Yep.
grab a bunch of attention. Yeah, I've tried doing the whole engagement thing, searching the local hashtags and following people, comment, like, it's so much work.
That's a thing. That's how you grow, is commenting on other people's pages, liking them, and it's too much. For my tattoo page, my big break was when Rogan actually reposted one of my posts, and it just happened to be someone else's art. He must have seen it on my page, or seen the hashtag, and I gained like 3,000 followers in 6 hours. But yeah, it's a lot of work. And honestly, there's times where you'll go a week of posting 2, 3 times a day, and you're like, what am I doing? And you'll just for me, I'll take a week break. And I don't know how consistent I want to be. I mean, I'll be honest, you kind of feel like a loser posting that much on social media.
Well, that's
But
why most companies have a team.
yeah, exactly. And
It's a real job.
right.
Can you monetize Instagram like you can YouTube?
Not as easily, but yeah, you can. That was actually my goal, is find a way to monetize it by using, or by creating pages that I enjoy, not just creating pages that I think would be popular. I kept hearing, once you get to 100,000, then you can really monetize it. And the push to get to 100 it's hard. It takes a lot of time. And like you were saying, Pat, a lot of engagement. It's too much.
So what is it doing? It's not running ads though, is it? Like, on YouTube, like they get pre-roll ads, they get ads that happen in
Right.
the middle. Like some people are giving sponsored spots on YouTube. Like how does Instagram?
It's mostly sponsors.
Yeah.
So one thing I did when I was at like 40 or 45,000, I really wanted to push to get to 50,000. So I would reach out to pages that are like 500,000 plus followers and say, hey, if I pay you, would you, throw me in your stories, or say reposted from Life on 2? And I did that a couple times, and I just didn't find I got a lot of return on that. It would have to be a page that has millions of followers. So I would start going to pages that are like geared towards men or guys like 18 to 35. And they had like multiple, like 2, 3, 4 million followers. And that guy got a good push, but they're also asking for like thousands of dollars. And I can't justify that.
Yeah, it's very similar with like search engine optimization for
Yep.
websites. You're trying to get cross posted from other similar websites and more popular websites, and
Yeah.
that helps drive the analytics and the traffic to yours. But same thing, like either you have connections that are helping you out, or you're just paying money to, like, you write a little blog piece on your website and get someone else to link to it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
And I had one page that was promoting me for about a month, and they had about 600,000. It got to be too much. So it's a lot of work.
Yeah. And I have a hard time posting. Sometimes I'll go like a month without posting anything for myself, let alone for anything else, right?
Right. I do find that it's easier when it's a topic that you like rather than personal stuff.
Yeah.
I rarely go on Facebook. And if I do, it's for MMA news or jiu-jitsu news. Otherwise, I would never go on Facebook for that reason, because I don't want to deal with like personal posts, seeing people's personal posts, and a lot of the way Facebook has become. But yeah, it's a lot easier when you're posting things that you're interested in outside of your personal life,
Yeah.
for me at least.
I use Facebook for 2 things. One, to see if Pat posts anything I need to know about the
Yep.
gym. And 2, if I need to post something in like the town that I live in's
Yep.
like page. Like,
Yep.
that's really it. Like sometimes friends will ask me like, "What, did you see that on Facebook?" I'm like, "No." And I'm proud to say like I don't go on it. You know what I mean? Like as cheesy as that sounds, or as like crotchety as that sounds, maybe. Like
Yep.
I'm like, I have enough avenues, because I would spend like just be scrolling through that crap constantly, right? Finally, I was like, I took it off my phone, and that made a huge difference.
Yeah,
Like now I have to actually like think about going to it if
Yep.
I'm on the computer.
sure. Yeah, it's a nightmare. I turn on notifications from you, Pat, just so that I can be updated with what's going on with the gym. And honestly, it's a good reminder for birthdays for me.
Mm.
People that you don't talk to all the
Yep.
time, it's like, oh, that's right. I got to go say happy birthday.
See, luckily, I've just taken a stance as not being a happy birthday type of person. So then I just don't feel bad if I miss somebody.
So you set the expectation. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not going to hear from Pat on my birthday, so
Yep.
that's good.
Yeah.
I like that.
And it's not
approach.
just you, it's everybody.
There you go.
That's pretty funny.
Immediate family. They get it. That's it.
Pat does not recognize anybody else's birthdays.
And I really don't care if you forget mine too.
Yeah, I honestly don't care either. I care less.
You get to a certain age, and every year my wife's like, "What do you want to do for your birthday?" It's like I don't care.
Well, now that you're on the downside with the rest of us,
This year was a big deal, obviously with 40, but more so because the road trip we took. That was awesome. But aside from that, I couldn't care less about my birthday.
Yeah. Kate's going to laugh when she hears this because she knows how I feel about birthdays. And her family are the opposite.
yeah,
They're into birthdays.
Yeah.
So we struggle.
that's funny.
Yeah, growing up, my birthdays weren't that big of a thing.
Mm.
So,
So I asked Pat this question when we were doing our interview. I'll ask you the same thing. What do you tell people jiu-jitsu is, or what do you tell people when they ask you about what is that thing you do? Is it karate? Is it?
well, let's see. So the question I usually get is like, "Oh, it's that rolling around thing, right?" And first of all, I just say yes, and it gets old explaining it. But pretty much what I said before, it's a good stress reliever. It's a good ego controller, and obviously it's fun learning how to strangle people. But outside of that, what I tell people a lot is it's a place to go where to help you realize that all the petty shit that you deal with outside of it doesn't matter. Just the difference in like, I don't want to say road rage, but like coming to class versus leaving class, it's night and day. My attitude driving home versus coming in.
I love my drives home from here.
It's so peaceful.
Yeah. And I'm like, 30 minutes through the woods, back roads, especially the nice time of the year. You can have the windows down.
Oh yeah. September, October, I'm sure is
Yeah.
awesome driving up out there. Yeah. That's usually what I'm telling people is just any BS you had going on through the day, through the week, month, whatever, it's just gone when you leave class. And if there's anything else that did that, I would do that too.
It's funny because we both said we kind of avoid the topic when people bring it up. It feels awkward to answer the question.
Well, it's usually the follow-up question or statement.
Yeah.
So you can probably kick my ass, right?
Yeah. That's exactly it. You're right. We didn't say that the other day, but that does always follow up with that. Yeah.
Could or want to based on this conversation. Yeah. I think a lot of people associate jiu-jitsu with MMA or, oh, you do that UFC, and it's like, oh, Conor McGregor, all these Ronda Rousey, they always bring up the big names. It's like, well, no, it's not that. It's a part of that. It is awkward. And people ask, oh, what do you like to do when you're not working? And you say, oh, jiu-jitsu, that's it.
Yeah. I've pretty much lost touch with, we were talking about this at Open Mat. I've kind of lost touch with the MMA scene and the UFC the last several years. Like I hardly know who anybody is anymore.
Yeah.
I was way more into it before I started training in the first several years, and I've kind of fallen off with it.
It's easy to do. It really is. I mean, it's great that it's getting bigger and bigger. I'm glad that there's more money in it for the fighters because they deserve way more than they're getting, but
There's so many names to try to keep track of
it's
and who's
impossible.
who. And
Yeah. It's too difficult to keep track.
Yeah. I definitely used to watch a ton back in the day. I was telling you, Pat, like when the early Ultimate Fighter was on, I was like, oh my God, this is awesome.
we used to get every pay-per-view
Yeah.
because that was the only fights once a
Right.
month. There's
Right.
12 a year. We would get all of them.
Right.
You'd go broke doing it now.
And you would sit on the edge of your seat like, oh, I was just going to say, that's the reason why you brought it up. Like there's so many fights now that I'm like, it's overkill. I don't need fights every single week. I would rather you put on 2 shows a month and have them be stacked, right? Than
Although I do catch myself, I'll like look at my phone, I'll see what the card is, and I'll just like immediately judge it. I'm like, I don't know who. I know the main eventers. I don't know anybody else. I'm not going to watch it. And then, we'll just be on the couch and I'll flip on the prelims and it'll be like 4 amazing fights with people I don't know.
Yeah.
So I get a little bit judgy, but
yeah,
the quality is still really good.
Yeah. I definitely do that where I'll be like home. And it's like, oh, it's whatever, Saturday at 7:00 and the prelims starting. Like, oh yeah, let me put those on. Right. Like I still watch it.
Yeah.
But I don't get I'm not nearly as invested or I'm not excited. I couldn't even tell you last time I got a pay-per-view at this point.
Yeah, same.
Couldn't even.
I got the last one.
Yeah.
But that was like, I'll get the bigger fights.
Yeah.
I think the other issue too is when you get to our age, you can't be up till 2 o'clock in the morning watching these damn fights. Like,
Yeah, that is true.
and like you were saying, it's hard to get excited for something that happens every single weekend. Some weekends it's 2 or 3 fights.
Right.
Yeah. Living in Phoenix was great. Pay-per-view started 7 o'clock.
Yeah, that's right.
Perfect.
That's
So
nice.
Have friends over. Fights wrap up by 10. Everyone's out of the house 10:30.
Yeah. Yeah, that's nice. I could deal with that.
Yeah.
Not to be an old fart, but I mean, even the other day, you were asking me whether or not I was going to get them.
Mhm.
And I watched the prelims. And then, like, once 10 o'clock came along, it didn't even occur to me. Like, I just changed the channel and did something else.
Yeah.
Like, I never even thought, like, oh, I could actually get the rest of the fights. Just, I realized after the fact, it was like 10:30. I was like, oh, shit, I forgot the rest of the fights.
I actually don't even start the fights until 2 hours after so that I can fast forward through all the BS.
I was going to say the good thing now is the way everything is on the app. Even if you don't want to stay up and watch it, you can just watch it
Yeah.
the next day.
Yeah.
Just avoid the news.
That's true. I definitely go back and watch, because, you know, like, whatever, it'll be on the ESPN Plus app, like, in a week or 2 weeks, whatever, and I'll just go back and watch the fights that I missed.
Yep.
Even if I know what happens, and that's always good to see someone took a beating or there was some crazy submission or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of those lately.
It was this
Crazy
past weekend.
submissions.
Yeah.
Several broken
Some
arms.
Scary ones. Yeah.
Yeah, the one with, they were calling him the Bear Jew, but what's his real name?
Paul Craig.
Paul Craig.
Yeah.
That was scary.
I actually, one of the few fights I've had to turn away from because just seeing the ref just watch it, his arm flop around like that. It's like,
Yeah.
it's right. Stop the damn fight.
Yeah.
And I just happened to be watching the Jacare fight on the prelims.
It's another
Gets
scary
his
one.
arm snapped.
And just gets up casually and shakes his hand. Congrats. Did an awesome job. It's like, your arm
Savage.
is dangling. What are you doing?
Yeah. I feel like there was a while where that wasn't happening, right? Where you would see like major injuries like that. I feel like I noticed that a lot more in the early days, but I feel like I see that nearly as much now. Like those two instances, obviously more recently, but before that, like when was the last time you could think of somebody get an arm snapped or something? In a
I always
fight?
think of Mir versus Sylvia.
that was a long time ago.
15 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then a little bit more recent than that, he had the Kimura on Noguera.
Yep.
That was still had to be 10 years ago at this
Right.
point.
Probably close to. Yeah. I
Right.
can't tell you how many times I've watched that fight. Such a good sequence.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the other thing with fights too is, 15, 12 years ago, it was such a niche thing. Like watching a fight, it's like, you're the only one in your group of friends or in your family that's watching them.
Yeah.
Now, everybody, almost every Sunday, someone texts me, hey, did you see this person fight? You see that person fight? It's not that. Everybody wants to be listening to a band before they blow up.
Yeah.
They want to be the first guy to, find a band. I think that's how it was with MMA, a decade and a half ago is you were
Yeah.
like the only person in your group watching it.
I was
just-
giving some of our younger teammates a little bit of shit recently because I got a random email from Dan Severn's business manager, just like, soliciting seminars. And I just like put it out in a chat I have with a few of the guys, just like, who wants to do this?
Hmm.
And one of them says, gotta be honest, I just had to Google to look up who that was.
Do you know who it is?
That's unacceptable.
Oh, I thought you were pausing because you didn't know who it was.
No, I mean, yeah. Well, I guess it's easy to forget that I'm 40.
Well, and the response was, I just started training a couple of years ago and didn't watch any fighting before then. Just like, how dare you?
yeah, that's how do you not know a legend like
Right.
that?
OG. Right. OG.
Yeah, a pioneer of the sport.
Right. Pretty funny.
Now I want to know who that was. I don't want to know who it
I'll
was.
tell you later.
You can guess. You can guess who it was.
It's easy to
He was
forget.
here about 40 minutes ago.
Right.
Well, that's a perfect example. I have 15 years on him, around there. It's easy to forget that.
Mhm.
Well, that's another beautiful thing about jiu-jitsu. When you're in that room, it doesn't matter. Nothing matters in that room. Age is one of them. So
Yeah,
it's,
we have a bunch of youngsters right now.
yeah, a lot of new faces. It's so exciting.
Yeah, it's weird because at the previous gym I was at, I was not anywhere near the oldest guy. And then here, I'm pretty sure I'm like the third oldest guy here. I'm pretty sure.
Sounds about right.
So, I don't generally think about it because I think of myself as like a immature idiot still. but I definitely realize I can't do some of the stuff that some of the other guys do. I'm like I just have to hold on to Jameson when I can, right? Like, let me just hold on to you, you little squirrely, right? Like,
Yeah, you're gonna get strangled if you don't just try to hold
I
on.
gotta do something against him because I can't move like he does, or even Morgan, right? Like, come on.
Yeah. Like I said before, for me, it's the next day where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm older now.
Yep.
Exactly. All right, Ryan. Well, thank you for coming, man.
Thanks for the invite.
I appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, it was a blast.
So number 2, right?
This was episode like 2.5.
Yeah.
2.5.
We're not sure what we're doing with that first one yet.
Right.
Nice.
So we'll edit it together and figure out what happens from there. So
I can't wait to hear how I sound on it.
You're gonna hate it.
Yeah, that's
it's
why
fine.
I can't wait.
We all do.
All the cringiness. Yeah.
it's bad enough to hear yourself, but then I was like editing the video and I had to like watch myself at the same time, and I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
it's terrible.
You
He
got-
sounds perfectly fine to me. Like, he just sounds like I expect him to sound, right? You probably sound
We're
the
all
same
gonna
way.
feel the same way about ourselves.
Yeah.
That's why you need a third-party producer.
Right. If we can hire somebody, once we start making millions off
Yeah.
our podcast, we can hire somebody to sit in the corner over there and do
There you
our tech work.
Rent that room, turn it into like a
Yeah, we'll
producer studio.
We'll blow that
Yeah.
room out. They'll have a window there to be looking in at us, right?
Yeah.
Right.
On air.
Right. Exactly. Like Robin Quivers from Howard Stern.
Yep.
So cool, man. Thanks for coming
again.
in. Thanks for rolling.
Thanks for rolling.